Welcome everybody, my name is Sebastian, I'm a long-term language professional and today I will be your Hollywood language consultant. Today's subject of study, German in Wednesday Season 1 Episode 3. When our titular character, Wednesday Addams, has to work for a day at the Pilgrim World tourist attraction, they make her sell fudge to the visitors, supposedly their main source of revenue. Wednesday then encounters a group of German tourists advertising the yummy treat to them in their home language. Before we look at the audio lines, let's take a moment to examine the premise. Would a busload of Germans from all ages come to a pilgrim theme park in some hick town in the middle of nowhere in the US? And as you can probably already grasp from my intonation, I'd consider that highly unlikely, and there are several reasons for that. Number 1. Mixed age travel groups are really rare, almost non-existent. Bus tours with school kids, sure, bus tours with elderly, you betcha, but people in their 20s, 40s and 60s traveling together? Get out of here. But maybe it's just several small groups, I hear you say. I count at least 14 people, so let's split that up into 3 groups? And they just met there. Right now. Is it likely to have 3 groups of German speakers in a pilgrim park in Hicktown, USA on the same day, at the same time? Seriously, get out of here. Reason number 2. Germans, like most Europeans, don't care the slightest bit about American pilgrims. In fact, and this is going to sound harsh, what Americans wholeheartedly call history, we don't even think deserves a glance. And that's not ill intent by any means. It simply is too recent and too minor compared to everything we have in our history books. I mean, we go World War, French Revolution, right? In the French Revolution, you're already at the inception of, the US. I mean, the whole country is about 250 years old. In Europe, we regularly walk past shit that the Romans built. It's just a different perspective of history. My hometown, for example, a small, unimportant speck of land, is over 1,000 years old. If I want to see things from the 1600s, I just have to walk down the street. Not to mention that American history is extremely localized to one country, one small patch of land on the other side of the planet. It is not really interesting to Europeans in general, Germans in particular. So yeah, pilgrims, not on the top of my list at all. Reason number 3. Distances. Distances are perceived so much further in Europe. I sometimes hear people say something like, oh, Boston is only 4 hours from New York. And in Europe it's like you drive in any direction for 4 hours straight and people will start talking funny and their cheese is different. So hopping on a bus for 3 hours to see something that is not perceived as historic, but as old and inconsequential, isn't the most alluring thought in the world. Okay, but we're here for fun, let's forget the premise, let's focus on the dialogue. What is Wednesday telling the tourists and how real is it? Wednesday essentially says 4 sentences. Shall we listen in?
Genießen Sie Ihr authentisches Pilgrim Fudge aus Kakaobohnen, bezogen von den unterdrückten Wohnern des Amazonas. Alle Einnahmen dazu, dass armselige Schüssel vorbereitet amerikanischen Geschichte auch frisch durchhalten. Übrigens, Fudge wurde erst 258 Jahre später erfunden. Hat jemand Interesse? Nein.
The translation, or the writing here, no, it must be a translation. Whitewashing has to be the source. Schönfärberei can only be a translation. So, the translation is almost perfect. The only thing that could be better is the fourth line, the any takers. And I'll explain why in a second. First, I want to address the word fudge. The word fudge and the whole concept of fudge is very American to me, which of course is fine in the setting, right? We're in the US, but it's not something that has an equivalent in Germany, and therefore it doesn't have a translation. It's not known in Germany, so if I tell a German person fudge, they have no idea what it is. Hell, I don't even know what it is, and I've eaten it multiple times. And that's why this is one of the only things they've changed from these almost perfect lines for the German dub. The only change that makes sense anyway. The other ones are a bit strange if you ask me. Now, why don't I like that last line? Hat jemand Interesse? Because it's the kind of safe generic translation you use when you're not 100% sure about the context. Which makes sense because it was written before the scene was done, obviously, and who knows how much context the translator even had. But the way she's standing there, presenting her fudge and punctuating her statement, she should have said something like, Möchte jemand? Anybody want some? That's closer to any takers and more adapted and more natural in the actual situation. Next, let's talk about Jenna Ortega's performance. The acting is great, spot on, I love it, right? The accent, however, is so strong that it's hard to understand the words. Now, Wednesday, the character, is allowed to have an accent. It would add a certain coolness factor if there wasn't an accent, but in the setting, an accent is perfectly fine. She's an American teenager after all. But the level of accent does certainly not fit with the level of eloquence in the words, if that makes any sense. The first sentence is actually pretty great, starting strong. Let me show it to you side by side with the German dub, which uses mostly the same line, just changing fudge to caramel because of what I've already explained. Well, judge it for yourself.
Genießen Sie Ihr authentisches Pilgrimfudge aus Kakaobohnen, bezogen von den unterdrückten Ureinwohnern des Amazonas.
Genießen Sie Ihr authentisches Pilgrim-Karamell aus Kakaobohnen, gezogen von den unterdrückten Bewohnern des Amazonas.
Genießen Sie Ihr authentisches Pilgrimfudge aus Kakaobohnen, bezogen von den unterdrückten Ureinwohnern des Amazonas.
Cool, right? Give it up for Jenna and her performance. And if the rest had also been like this, it would have been an absolute A in my book. However, the second sentence already totally drops the ball. It's so bad, she has so much trouble with the words, that I had to watch the German dub just to figure out what words these are meant to be. Here, once again, let's compare what it sounds like and what it's supposed to sound like, more or less. They changed the text a bit, and not for the better, if you ask me. I like the original significantly better.
Alle einen nehmen dazu, dass armselige Schüchen vorbereitet amerikanischen Geschichte auch frisch durchhalten.
Alle Einnahmen dienten damals dazu, diese armselige Schönfärberei der amerikanischen Geschichte aufrechtzuerhalten.
Alle einen nehmen dazu, dass armselige Schüchen vorbereitet amerikanischen Geschichte auch frisch durchhalten.
See what I mean? As a native speaker, I can't understand what she's saying. Between mumbled words, forgotten syllables, incorrect word stress, and a general accent, this line really falls short. If I'm part of that tourist group there, I won't understand a word. Moving on. Sentence number 3. This one is much better. Almost as good as the first line.
Übrigens, Fudge wurde erst 258 Jahre später erfunden.
Übrigens wurde Karamell erst 258 Jahre später erfunden.
Übrigens, Fudge wurde erst 258 Jahre später erfunden.
Except for the fact that she says 258 in English. That's random, but it's funny, I guess.
258 Jahre, 258 Jahre, 258 Jahre.
I suppose nobody in prep taught her how to say that number in German. And the last line, I like it.
Hat jemand Interesse?
Hat jemand Interesse?
Hat jemand Interesse?
The way she says Interesse, or Interesse as she says, sounds like certain dialects. Sounds almost Austrian if you ask me, but it's also very nice and clear how she says the whole sentence. I like it. Let's tally up the score. Alright, that's it from me for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, leave a like, link it to your friends, subscribe to the channel, that will help us all. And see you next time. Auf Wiedersehen in the next one.